Alright, UFC 297 was this past weekend, right? I made a video talking about the main event, talking about the whole card, how I scored the fight, and it was a very close fight, right? It could have went to Dricus, could have went to Shawn Strickland, but at the end of the day, the judges saw it going to Dricus Du Plessis. Now, there's been a lot of talk. Is Shawn Strickland getting a rematch? Is Israel Adesanya going to fight Dricus Du Plessis? Does this affect UFC 300? Well, I touched on it a little bit in the last video, but since then, a lot of news has broken, including, fighters coming out with Instagram stories, coming out with tweets, hinting at things, Dana White also coming out and saying some things. So we're going to break down everything we know and what conclusions I think we can draw from it. But before we get into it, I want to remind you guys to hit the subscribe button, like, comment, and share. Our next subscriber goal is 12,000 subs. We're only 500 subs away from it, so if you guys get the subscribe button and help support the channel, it would mean a lot. But UFC 297, right? We saw the controversial close fight between Shawn Strickland and Dricus Du Plessis. Right now, if you guys recall, I scored the fight for Shawn Strickland. Now, does that mean I'm upset with the decision? Absolutely not. It was a close decision, very close. It could have gone either way if we're going to be honest. And I don't think anybody is wrong for scoring it for Dricus or scoring it for Shawn. You're only wrong if you're claiming that it was easy to decide or that it was dominant, then you're lying to yourself. But I think the rounds that we can all agree on is round 1 for Shawn, round 5 for Shawn, and round 4 for Dricus Du Plessis, while 2 and 3 are very controversial and very close. And that's just how it is at the end of the day, right? Sometimes fights are a bit close. That's why you don't want to leave it to the judges if you have a choice. But sometimes you don't have a choice, and that's where it sucks for guys like Shawn Strickland and Dricus Du Plessis, because one of these guys were going to get screwed, and it just happened to be Shawn Strickland. But with that fight being so close, I think a lot of people immediately asked, is Shawn Strickland getting a rematch? Now, is the probability of this likely? I'm going to say no. I don't think most likely Shawn Strickland is going to get that immediate rematch. I think most likely he's going to have to fight someone maybe on a pay-per-view, maybe a top contender, maybe the winner of Whitaker versus Costa. Now, I don't think Shawn Strickland is going to get a title shot next, but I will say out of all of the options that are presented, I think he is the most deserving. I mean, he beat Adesanya, right? Fought a very close fight against Dricus Du Plessis, the new champion. And whether you want to say it was a headbutt or he got punched in the eye and started bleeding there's no denying. Maybe if that punch lands a little bit farther away, maybe Shawn Strickland wins that 4th round. And that is crazy to base a fight on that. And I'm not trying to take any credit away from Dricus Du Plessis. He landed the punch at the end of the day, but I'm just saying it was a close fight, and there's no guarantee that Shawn doesn't win the next one. And as a matter of fact, I might actually pick Shawn Strickland to win the next one. So if Shawn Strickland is not getting the next title shot, and he's not getting an immediate rematch, who is? Well, guys, I think I've done enough baiting. You guys know, of course, who I'm talking about. We're talking about Israel Adesanya. Now, Israel Adesanya, right, he last fought Shawn Strickland back in September, lost in dominant fashion. I mean, he looked a lot worse than Shawn Strickland that night, and Shawn just absolutely picked his style apart. I mean, he was the perfect style matchup for someone like Israel Adesanya, pushing him against the cage, using the jab, taking away a lot of Izzy's weapons, and keeping him at boxing range, so Israel Adesanya couldn't really use those kicks, and Shawn just had very good defense, like checking those kicks. I mean, that was a great performance from Shawn Strickland. And after that, Israel Adesanya, unusually for him, didn't even go to the post-fight press conference, right? If you guys will recall, his coach took over the press conference for him, and that just tells me that I think Israel Adesanya was not in a good mind frame, leaving that fight. And it was because, as I've said before in the past, this was his first loss. If you look at the fight with Jan Blachowicz, right, that was a very close fight, and a lot of people chalked it up to Jan's size, so it didn't really seem like a real loss for Israel Adesanya. Then we went to the Alex Pereira fight, and he was winning in that fight, and then got finished in that 5th round, and then later on came back and knocked Alex out. So even that loss didn't really feel like a real loss, but this was his first loss where it was like, wow, he could not do anything against Shawn Strickland. You see Shawn yelling at Israel Adesanya at the end of the fight, trying to get Israel to do something, and that, I'm sure, really affected Israel Adesanya's confidence. And I think he said, look, I've been active for so long. I mean, you look at his schedule, there's one thing you can't knock Israel Adesanya for. He was very active, he was fighting all the time, and I think he just looked and said, look, I need a break, and he just need a few months off where I'm not thinking, oh, what's the next fight, who's the next contender? And even though realistically, right, he took off in September, which means that he has about 4 to 5 months off. That is a long break for Israel Adesanya, right? Usually in 4 to 5 months, he's already has another fight. So he's taken this time off, and I think it does make sense to make that Dricus Du Plessis matchup, even though I think Shawn Strickland is a little bit more deserving. Now, if you guys will recall, obviously these two have some intense beef. Back at UFC 290, when Dricus Du Plessis fought Whitaker and beat him, he was supposed to fight Adesanya next, and they faced off in the cage, and it obviously got very heated, and the two have just had so much back and forth, and I feel like the stakes are all-time high. I mean, the fight sells itself. Israel Adesanya loses the belt. Dricus Du Plessis wins it from the guy that Izzy lost to, and now Dricus is the one with the belt, and Izzy's chasing him. I think it's a perfect storyline, and I think it would be good for UFC 300 because you have that built-in storyline. Is it the greatest UFC 300 fight? No, I will say I don't think it's the best, but out of all the options we've been presented with so far, I think this is the best one. Now, the main question, the main reason I'm making this video is, can Israel Adesanya beat Dricus Du Plessis? Well, I still think that there's a lot of unknowns about Dricus Du Plessis, right? We learned a lot from that Shawn Strickland fight, because before the Shawn Strickland fight, I felt like we only had one fight to analyze Dricus' potential, which was the Robert Whitaker fight. This is because, obviously, of the nose surge, right? Dricus Du Plessis, before the Robert Whitaker fight, looked pretty awful in a lot of those fights, including the fight beforehand, which was the fight with Derek Brunson. Derek Brunson actually had some success in that first round, which is crazy to say because now he's not even in the UFC. So he had some success in that first round. I thought the Dricus looked really, really bad, and then he got the nose surgery and looked really good against Robert Whittaker. So going into the Shawn Strickland fight, I told you guys time and time again, we don't know what version of Dricus is going to show up. Maybe that was just a fluke version of Dricus where he looked really good, or maybe that's just how Dricus is going to look. And I think we got a mix of both, right? Dricus Du Plessis did not finish Shawn Strickland, but I think that could be attested to Shawn Strickland's toughness and his skill and his defense. First of all, I just want to say some of the things that we learned about him, right? We had a few question marks about his gas tank. How would he look in the 4th and 5th rounds? And as we saw, I mean, he won the 4th round. Whether you want to say it's because of the cut or not, he won the 4th round. It was competitive in the 5th. Dricus Du Plessis has proven that his gas tank is no longer a problem. Now, I will say the fight was mostly standing up, and I'm more curious to see what his cardio is going to look like when you incorporate a little more grappling. Because look at the Derek Brunson fight, there was grappling and he gassed. Look at the Darren Till fight, there was grappling and he gassed after the grappling. And he didn't really grapple so much against Shawn Strickland because a lot of those takedowns were defended and he was able just to plop up, and it was mostly Dricus on the feet. So with that being said, I think that if you're going into the Adesanya fight against Dricus Du Plessis with a narrative built in already saying, look, Dricus is just going to take him down and control him, I wouldn't think that so fast because look, if you look at his past, he is gassed traditionally when he goes to the grappling. But when he's on the feet, we really see him, be a little bit more calm and have some success. And that's the case for a lot of fighters, right? Like Michael Chandler's another guy that gasses a lot in his fights, and if he uses his wrestling, he would gas a lot faster. Yoel Romero's another guy that has elite wrestling, but never used it because of fear of gassing out. And I don't think that Dricus' game plan into an Adesanya fight is, okay, let me take him down and control him because Izzy's gotten taken down a few times. Israel Adesanya has a good get-up game. He has gotten taken down a few times in the past, but he is very good at getting back up. That's something that Volkanovski was good at against Islam, right? He got taken down and was able to get up from the fence because of a lot of the work that he does and get up and go free. And I think that Islam Makhachev has a better grappling gas tank than Dricus Du Plessis. But I wouldn't count Adesanya out in this matchup. I think a lot of people are. I've seen the odds. They're pretty much razor close. I think as of right now, guys, I know this might sound crazy. I'm going to go with Israel Adesanya. I don't know, though. It is a very close fight. Dricus Du Plessis does have a very good shot at beating Israel Adesanya. But look, Shawn Strickland made him look really bad. And I think it was just a bad style matchup for him. I think he could possibly defend the takedowns of Dricus Du Plessis. Maybe he gets taken down and controlled early, but maybe Dricus then gasses and we see Israel Adesanya now being a master at range, landing some shots, landing some leg kicks. And I think it's a very different matchup than the fight with Shawn Strickland. Now, final question. Will this fight happen at UFC 300? Gun to my head, I honestly don't know. I did a stream last night if you guys missed it, but I talked about the fact that would this fight be on UFC 300, Izzy versus Dricus? And I said no. I said defiantly, look, I don't think Dricus is going to turn around. And I think it makes sense, right? If you look at, when he was going to turn around in Sydney, Australia. He fought at UFC 290, and granted, yes, he did say he was injured, but I feel like if he's not going to take a fast turnaround to win the belt, what makes you guys think he's going to have a fast turnaround to defend it? If anything, I think it would make more sense that you have a quick turnaround to get the belt, because now he could wait as much time as he wants. He's always going to be the champ. It's a good UFC 300 main event. Dricus Du Plessis, it looked really beat up. My guess is I don't think the fight is going to wind up coming to fruition. I think more likely we could see Adesanya versus Pereira. I think we'll see the fight against Dricus and Adesanya at some point, maybe UFC 300, who knows? Dana White seemed like that's at least what they wanted to do, but I'm not so sure. But guys, UFC 297 was this past weekend, as I mentioned, and I made a video scoring the fight, talking about what I thought about the whole card from top to bottom in a very short and compact video, guys, so check it out. It's on the screen right now. Also made a video talking about the top 5 fights I want to see in 2024. Click that as well. Thank you guys for watching. You guys are the best fan base in MMA, and I'll see you guys in the next one.